Hi, I'm Anthony Fury. On Friday, PC Party leader Tim Hudak came by to talk to us about a variety of Ontario issues. One issue that I think will be of particular interest to people in Ottawa is the comments he had to say on the Rideau Carleton Raceway and on the idea of a new casino coming to Ottawa. Check this out.
A disservice to getting at the fundamental problems besetting our economy when so much energy in Ottawa and other parts of the province have focused on casinos. Second
I'm
thing
not
here.
sure most of the media attention, in fairness, has been saying that casinos are going to cure the financial woes of this city or province.
Not blaming the media at all. You're covering what the politicians are talking about and blaming the province for not even recognizing the fundamental economic problems that we have and putting in the window, what is their economic plan? 29 new casinos. We're all going to build industrial wind turbines.
Yeah, but in
put them in the
fairness,
province.
I think we could all agree with that, but what, as Mike said, what happens under Tim Hudak?
Okay, so all right. So what do I think should actually be done? Listen, if you want to offer a couple things, if you actually want to offer more gaming options at casinos, for example, you want to put tables in. Why wouldn't you put them at existing locations?
Why wouldn't you? Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
exactly. It just seems to be a common sense solution to me. So you have racetrack slots that are operating. You've got a history in the community. They've been built this way. So why wouldn't you simply add table games then to existing facilities and give that as a product offering that exists, as opposed to bulldozing down existing facilities?
So your preferred choice, if there was a choice within the Ottawa area, would be to expand the existing casino situation in Rideau Carleton and leave downtown alone?
Okay.
So that was a yes?
Well, my point of view, first of all, is before you even consider adding a new casino in the province, you should have a municipal referendum. That's been the approach that my party has taken. That's the approach that I believe, and I've reinforced as leader of the party. When we added one to Niagara Falls, for example, we had a referendum that said 68% supported it. We did so. Toronto said no, so we didn't put one in Toronto. I don't recall if there was one in Ottawa in the 1990s. So our first, if you're asking what our policy is, first step is
We did not have a referendum on casinos.
Okay, first step is a referendum. But secondly, it's just a common sense solution. I mean, adding 29 new casinos is not part of our economic plan. I want to be clear about that. You're asking me what do I think should be done? I'm saying before you consider one, have a referendum. Secondly, if you are considering adding new product offerings, it just seems common sense to me that you would establish them at existing sites. Why wouldn't you then, if you wanted to add roulette or craps to the province of Ontario, why wouldn't you do them where sites already exist, where communities have embraced them?
Well, I mean, the private business would say, you can't just give that to Rideau Carleton. We all have you've got to open it up to the market.
Why?
Well, you don't have to if you're government. That's how you wanted to do it. That's how you're not dealing with this in the hypothetical, though. If you are the premier, sir, you are dealing with this very specific issue that people who are at Rideau Carleton right now are potentially going to be shut down if, as seems to be indicated or telegraphed, that the preferred site for a casino might be Spark Street or somewhere else in town, that there are government regulations that say there can be only one in this region, this arbitrary region. So you could either say, I support one or the other, or this makes sense, or that I, as premier, don't believe that these arbitrary 29 zones make any sense at all. And I would say, let the market dictate, and if Ottawa wants 5 casinos and can support them, let them. And if they want 0, let them.
Right. So I think I've been pretty clear. I don't believe that adding new casinos to the province, these 29, is a viable economic plan. I think that is a distraction from the real issues. If you want to do new casinos, our policy has always been and will remain that you have a referendum first. We actually, I have a considerable background in this file, not only from where I came from. I served as a cabinet minister responsible for the OLGC as well as the AGCO. So I thought long and hard about these issues. We actually did look at, in 2003, adding table games in to Ottawa, Fort Erie, and I think it was Sarnia. That was actually part of our discussion. We then had the election. We didn't go ahead with that, and that plan went by the wayside. It just seems to me a sensible, common sense solution. If you are looking at expanding offerings at gaming sites, that you would do them at existing sites if that's the best.
So let me ask
business
this
plan.
question exactly along the lines of what you're talking about then. We're going to have an election in the spring. Should there be a ballot question in Ottawa in that election which says, would you support one of one casino, multiple casinos, gaming tables. We're going to have an election anyway, so adding a ballot question to that could be done. Should we have a referendum attached to this next election on the issue of gaming in Ottawa?
Interesting. Like I don't know what the mechanism, if you can actually attach a referendum provision. But let's see what the mechanism, could be, Mike, to do so.
You brought up a referendum, so.
Yeah, which has usually been, they've either done their own referendum or a municipal referendum. Can you attach provincial ballot?
Sure.
I don't know. But I think you can tell that I just have a very different viewpoint about all this emphasis the current government is putting into tearing down racetrack slots and building new casinos.
Your point on referendums would be that, I guess, that if a referendum question said, should Ottawa be allowed, if they choose to open 3 casinos, if you ask a referendum question, you have to be willing to accept the response, right? To which, it may not be in line, you ask a referendum question, it may not be in line with what your view is, right? But you'd accept the results of the referendum. So if the referendum was...
Well, yeah, I mean, before I'd even consider it, you'd have to have a referendum take place. Do I know if it would be a provincial ballot, municipal ballot, a standalone? I don't know what the mechanism is. We'll see exactly what's possible. You're asking me questions about a policy here that I'm not enthusiastically pushing for all these new casinos, and
Yeah, but in fairness, I mean, the story that you have here that you've admitted to is that you spent too much time saying what was wrong with the Liberals and not presenting yourself, and I'm desperate to find out where
People
you are on
talking
this,
about casinos in this city.
and you're not telling me.
absolutely. I mean, there'd be a referendum before I would consider any new casinos. I mean, that'd been plain, clear, black and white about that.
Would the city of Ottawa be able to have 10 if they want 10, or are they only going to have 1? Or are you going to protect Rideau Carleton Wasteway? I have no idea where you are.
And, well, first of all, before to consider an option, you have to have a referendum to show the community
so
actually wants
it.
Secondly, if you want
yes.
to, and if you want to look at sites down the road, doesn't it make more sense to add table games to existing sites? If you're asking me, is my plan to make Ottawa into Vegas north of 10 casinos? No, it's not. That is not what I see for the future of our province of Ontario. That's the approach that I would take. And I know that there's a big point of debate. I understand that. Municipalities are desperate for revenue because costs are going through the roof. It just seems to be much more sensible. First of all, I want to see community demonstration of sport. Secondly, if you are looking at expanding opportunities for gaming, you would put them at existing sites. That seems to be a sensible approach. Third thing I'll add to this too, and this is a relevant issue that has been in debate too, the single sports gaming. I've supported that. I know that's currently tied up in the Senate. That would be another option that we could pursue that would attract folks to come across the border into our sites.
Would you continue the subsidy for the racetrack?
Well, listen,
Do you see it as a subsidy?
It's a yeah. Well, listen, let me tell you what. I mean, I fought for that type of approach when I was an MPP from Niagara South and Fort Erie, and I'll tell you why. We actually were down a similar course. Here's background for you. We were actually down a similar course in 1995, 96, where we're looking at about 30 or so casinos across the province. So I was going back to my hometown of Fort Erie saying, well, here's the racetrack. And then we were proposing a new casino several kilometers away in the same hometown. And people said, Tim, that makes no sense. Why don't you actually combine the two and have one site? And that's actually the course that we took. And we put the slots in the racetracks. As part of that deal, we had a revenue sharing agreement. The province got 75% of the revenue that would come in, 10% to the purses, 10% to the racetracks, and then roughly 5% municipalities. So you had the lion's share coming to the province, but you also had some local economic development and the local sports municipalities. I think that was a program that actually worked. In fact, it was emulated in other jurisdictions. So it seemed to be a very sensible plan. It actually helped. Now that they're moving away from that, the Fort Erie racetrack is closing down. Others are probably heading in that direction. And I just think that the government's responsibility, when we have 600, let me put it this way. When you have 600,000 women and men who are out of work in our province today, that are looking for jobs, when we shed 300,000 manufacturing jobs, the government's responsibility should be helping to create jobs in that environment, not mowing existing jobs down. I think the current government's approach when it comes to gaming is not right for the province. I think it's going to cost us jobs, and it is not helping us address the fundamental issues that are besetting our province.
So do you continue the subsidy? I'm not trying to be difficult, I
Yeah.
just.
It seems to me like, listen, well, I guess you need to address whatever situation we inherit. I don't know when the election is going to be. I don't know if all the tracks are closed down and a whole bunch of new casinos are up, right? I don't know where you end up at the end of the day. But it seems to me that if you have a site that's at a racetrack, there should be some sort of sharing agreement, because you get economic spin-offs, you support the local industry, and you're actually using their site. That seems to be sensible and fair. Is it some policy that build these casinos, we tear them down and open up racetracks? That would make no sense whatsoever. You deal with whatever circumstance you have at the time. My point of view is, I think the government needs to take a big step back. I think they're on a reckless course that's going to cost us jobs. I don't think it's fitting with what most people believe. I bet you most people would say, build on existing sites if you're going further. But I also believe in my gut that putting all of this energy and interest behind all these new casinos, it's distracting us away from the true issues. So if any advice I mean, if the election were tomorrow, full stop on this initiative, I think it's wrong.